What is the common estate planning mistake that Stephen tWitch Boss made, and what are 4 lessons we can learn from that? My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm an estate planning and business law attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City, and today we're going to take a look at some lessons we can learn from the estate of Stephen tWitch Boss. So when it comes to celebrity estates, when something happens, it always seems to end up in the news when maybe something didn't go exactly right with that estate. So recently we've seen a fight over a trust amendment in the Lisa Marie Presley estate. We've seen a few months ago Naomi Judd had changed her will before she died, and one of her daughters was not so happy about what that change did. And then of course here in Minnesota we had the ongoing saga of Prince, who died in 2016 without a will, leaving hundreds of millions of dollars behind for his estate to fight over. Now, when we look at celebrity estate plans, a lot of times as regular people we think, none of this applies to me. This isn't something that I'm going to deal with. I'm not Elvis's daughter. I'm not Naomi Judd. I'm not a famous country music singer. I'm certainly not a music legend like Prince. However, when we look at the estate of Stephen tWitch Boss, a famous DJ from the Ellen DeGeneres show, we can see that actually there's some lessons that everybody can learn from what he did and didn't do with his estate planning, and how you can make sure that your estate plan is properly crafted. So for those who don't know, Stephen tWitch Boss was the DJ for the Ellen DeGeneres show, and he died in December of 2022. He leaves behind a wife and 3 children, and his wife now says that he died without a will. So what she did is she filed a petition with the court in California saying he died without a will, and some of the assets he left behind are a production company, an investment account, and royalties from his professional work in the entertainment industry. Now, before you think there's anything weird going on, this is a routine way for an estate to proceed. In a situation like this, where someone dies without a will, it's called dying intestate, and usually what will happen then is a family member has to file with the court to say that so-and-so died, but they did not leave a will behind. So that's obviously the biggest mistake that we're going to encounter in this case with tWitch, is that he did not actually leave an estate plan behind. But there are going to be 4 lessons in doing so that we can take from what happened in this case. First of all, most importantly, you need to have a will. In this case, tWitch leaves behind 3 children under the age of 18. A will provides for guardianship for these children and can provide a trustee to be able to manage funds for them while they're under the age of 18. In the immediate term, it may not be as much of an issue because his wife is still alive and can take care of the children. However, down the road, what if something happens to her and these children are young? Who's going to take care of the children? So if you have young children, the first lesson you can take from the situation is you need to have a will, and that will has to say who will be the guardian of your children. Without it, you're going to be left with your family members trying to decide who should be taking care of those children. And if you haven't noticed, the surrogates courts, the probate courts across the country are all backlogged from all of the work that we've been doing recently with the COVID pandemic shutting down courts. So these filings are taking a lot longer than they ever have in the past. You don't want to leave your children tied up in a court battle that lasts 6, 7, 8 months, maybe a year or 2. You want to have a will that has specific provisions for the guardianship. Lesson number 2, when we look at his investment account, the investment account should have a beneficiary designation on it. And if it has a beneficiary designation, it doesn't have to go through the local probate court. It can go directly to the person who is designated as that beneficiary. This is an easy estate planning trick that you can do without the need of talking to an attorney. Work with your financial advisor, talk to them to make sure that whatever accounts you have that have a beneficiary designation on it, that you have the right people listed as beneficiaries. The biggest mistake I see when it comes to investment accounts are the beneficiary being listed as to my estate, which means that all the money from that account then has to go into your estate first and be dealt with by the probate court before it can be distributed. Lesson number 3, it looks like Stephen tWitch Boss owned a few different companies, or at least had an ownership interest in different companies. And what he can do with these to keep them out of the probate court, to keep them out of the public eye, frankly, is to create transfer on death designations for his ownership interest. Now, this is an important point here that you need to make sure your state allows for this to happen. Not every state allows for you to do a transfer on death designation for a membership interest, for example, in an LLC or an ownership interest in a company. However, if your state allows for it, it's an important estate planning tool you can use for any corporate interest you have, so that that LLC doesn't get wrapped up in the probate court. Because remember, the probate court filings are public, and your competitors would love to see what your LLC has been making for money and to see what kind of assets it has and what your business looks like. That's a great way to get some competitive research on a company when you know one of the other owners has died and now these filings become public. And the fourth lesson we can take is similar to the last lesson: create an LLC or other companies to manage your royalties. So being in the entertainment industry, he obviously had royalties coming in from his work on the Ellen DeGeneres show and in other entertainment ventures that he had. And by putting any royalties that come in into an LLC or some other corporate form, what you're first doing is you're allowing yourself to take care of tax advantages that you can take by being part of a corporation or an LLC. But secondly, by using that transfer on death designation as well, you're going to keep this information once again out of the probate court and out of the public eye if something happens to you. LLCs are a very common way that we can take things like royalties or other income and protect them from your personal tax return. So if you're receiving royalties from a song, for example, and you get $1 million in royalties, you want that $1 million to go into your LLC, not to go into your personal name, because it's going to then significantly affect your personal tax return. However, with the LLC, you then have a corporate tax rate applied, and you're not forced to take all that money out. It doesn't come immediately to you. You can reinvest it. This is another tactic that I see social media influencers use as well. So if you haven't looked into it, some of the largest social media influencers have LLCs for this reason. All that money that gets from sponsorships, from unboxing videos, all the money coming in, it goes into an LLC, especially when they have children as the creators who can't actually receive all that money for tax purposes. That LLC protects all of that money for them in the future. So we've seen 4 lessons we can learn from Stephen tWitch Boss's estate. And in the end, he didn't necessarily do anything wrong, other than he just didn't actually have an estate plan put into place. And that happens a lot. A lot of my clients come to me and say, you know what, I just haven't had time to get around to putting my estate plan in. And hopefully you'll see from these 4 lessons that it's relatively straightforward what you need to do. If you have children especially, create a will. Check your investment accounts to make sure they have beneficiary designations. If you have a corporate interest, look to see if you can have a transfer on death designation. And if you're receiving royalties or some other stream of income from a rental property, number 4, create an LLC or another company of some type to receive those royalties. If you're not sure what to do next, or you're not sure where to get started, you can go to my website, andrewmayers.com. There's a red legal strategy session on the front page. If you click that, you'll be taken to my personal calendar. We can set up a 15 or 20-minute phone call called a legal strategy session to go over where you are in the process and what questions you have and give you some next steps. It's always tragic when a celebrity dies, but some of the issues that are raised in their states actually affect the rest of us too. They're not all people like Prince, who have hundreds of millions of dollars, or Lisa Marie Presley, who's the heir to Elvis's estate. Sometimes these lessons can really hit home and we need to pay attention to them.